So things got a bit heated today at the owners' meetings, with Philly making a case so strong that it got a bit out of hand and they were even verbally reprimanded for it, which is kinda crazy. In the end though, the Eagles got the last laugh and trolled the hell out of everyone afterwards. So I've got to talk about that, other interesting outcomes from these NFL league meetings, a potential top wideout holding out, and more right after. Alright, first up, the 2025 Spring League meetings have officially wrapped up today in Minneapolis, and we have a lot to get into from it. First, the Detroit Lions actually withdrew their proposal to change the playoff seeding format after there wasn't enough support from owners. Basically, if this had passed, wildcard teams would have had the chance to finish with a higher seed than division winners if they had a better record. It still would have been 4 division winners and 3 wildcard teams, so winning your division earns a lock in the playoffs. You just weren't guaranteed a top 4 spot. So, while it got withdrawn today, there is reportedly some support for the concept, and the NFL is going to study possible reseeding scenarios for some potential changes in 2026 or down the line. So for this year at least, everything will stay the same in terms of playoff seeding. Something that will change though is how onside kicks are conducted. Today, owners passed a proposal that will allow for teams to declare an onside kick at any point in the game if they're trailing, rather than solely in the fourth quarter when trailing like last year. Something else to note here is that the alignment for onside kicks has also changed a very small bit here. The ball will now be placed at the 34-yard line, while players will line up at the 35-yard line. The hope here is that this will bring a higher success rate, because last season just 6% of onside kicks were recovered. I definitely miss the days when you didn't even have to declare for an onside kick at all, and you could just do a surprise onside kick at any point in the game. However, that's basically impossible with the new kickoff format that was implemented last season, so this feels like a step in the right direction based on how the new format is. Next up, let's get to the news of the day, which is the Tush Push is officially here to stay. And that comes as a pretty big surprise to a lot of people, especially because it looked like all the momentum was heading towards it being banned. The Packers put forward the initial proposal that was tabled back in March, as only 16 teams of the 24 needed were in favor of banning it. But the Packers made some revisions to the proposal that were thought to give it a better chance at passing. Then the real kicker was, it seemed by all indications, even Roger Goodell, the commissioner himself, was in favor of banning it. Jordan Schultz said earlier this morning before the vote took place that, quote, "It's become clear that NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell is a strong proponent of banning it, and when Goodell pushes for change, it usually ends up happening." Well, it ultimately isn't up to him, it's up to the owners. And ahead of their final vote today, Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie addressed the room for over half an hour and made some pretty strong remarks. One of the biggest pushbacks against the play has been injury concern, even though there has been zero data to suggest that any injuries occurred as a result of it. You could say Chris Jones in the Super Bowl, but he literally lined up sideways, so probably just shouldn't do that moving forward. Anyway, Lurie pointed to this, even going as far as to call it the safest play in the history of the game. I mean, I think a kneel down to drain the clock after you basically sealed a victory is probably the safest play in the game, but I digress. From there, Lurie went on to say that whoever votes to ban this play is taking liability for putting risk on our quarterbacks. I don't want to come off as a hater here, because I didn't really care if the play got banned or not, but how would the removal of the Tush Push put more risk on the quarterbacks? Maybe I'm missing something there with that one, but the Eagles owner wasn't the only one to speak on this today. Eagles assistant GM John Ferrari and Eagles legend himself, their former longtime center Jason Kelce, also took to the podium. Kelce's speech reportedly focused on the mechanics of the play and how it is not overly dangerous. And I do need to point out that things apparently got pretty heated. Seth Wickersham of ESPN literally put out an article after all this saying sources tempers flare as Eagles defend Tush Push in heated debate. So it wasn't all respectful here, and look how crazy things actually got. Lurie made an impassioned speech. We've been talking about that, right? With the Eagles and the NFL declining to comment, but sources to Lurie told ESPN that he had seen reports from earlier in the day that the Tush Push was going to be banned, so he kind of just went for it, giving an hour-long speech and even made an analogy telling the room that regardless of whether the play was banned, it was a win-win for the Eagles, adding that it was like a wet dream for a teenage boy to create a play that was so successful that the only way for it to be stopped was for it to be banned. What? What an analogy to use. Well, of course, that was a bit unexpected. So after Lurie finished speaking, Vincent chastised the Eagles owner for the wet dream comment, specifically for saying it in front of women in the meeting. Vincent, by the way, is the executive vice president of football operations, in which Lurie also directly criticized both Troy and Roger Goodell, adding that he had spoken to the NFL chief medical officer at length about the play and the injury concerns and all that they were presenting. So yeah, things got a bit heated to say the least, with the Eagles kind of going for a Hail Mary. Well, it might have worked, because from there, the meeting was moved to a private session in which only the owners and family could be in the room. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated called that unusual and even said that it could be a tactic to get the ban passed, but nope. To many surprise, the news broke that the Tush Push did not receive the required 75% support from the NFL owners to pass. In fact, they were just 2 votes shy of it passing, as they needed 24, but only got 22. That means 10 teams voted against the ban, with those being the Eagles, obviously, then the Ravens, Browns, Lions, Jags, Dolphins, Patriots, Saints, Jets, and Titans. I thought it was interesting that the Cowboys weren't on this list, only because Jerry Jones said he was against the ban back in April, which, yes, was very surprising at the time, since the Cowboys and Eagles are rivals. But oh well, nobody is more excited about this news than the Eagles, who proceeded to go on an all-time troll run. They posted this picture with the caption "Push on" immediately after the news broke. Pretty funny, considering the Packers are the team that was behind the proposal, and they were obviously in the photo. A lot of people also pointed to the fact that the last time these two played each other was in the wild card round, and the Eagles won 22-10. Well, the final vote today was 22-10. Tush Push remains. Confirmation from the heavens, perhaps. The Eagles social team wasn't done there, though, because they then posted this video on their YouTube channel. 26 minutes of the Tush Push, and the thumbnail of that video also featured, you guessed it, the Packers. So job well done on their part, and I think they've earned the right to troll a little bit after yet another attempt to eliminate the Tush Push has failed. The trolling was directed at the Packers for initiating that proposal, but it's believed by several people that the Packers were used by the league to get the process of potentially banning this play started, because they are the only team in the NFL that doesn't have a principal owner. They are a publicly owned nonprofit corporation, so who really knows? What I do know is this doesn't seem like the last time this play gets put into question. 6 teams flipped their votes from March, and there was a lot of momentum towards it being banned, with Goodell himself being a part of that, as I previously mentioned. But you guys got to let me know your thoughts on today's outcome. Are you happy that the Tush Push isn't gone, or were you hoping to see it banned? Or maybe you're just happy we don't have to keep talking about it anymore, at least for now. Either way, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Something that I think most people around the NFL can agree on, outside of the owners at least, is that we don't really care for an 18th game to be added to the schedule. That is something that's been brought up in the past as a real possibility. But the current collective bargaining agreement doesn't expire until after the 2030 season, so unless an agreement is reached between owners and the NFLPA, they can't just pass that into place willy-nilly. Jerry Jones actually said that the owners didn't even discuss the subject at the league meetings this year, so that's some good news there if you're one of the people who want the schedule to remain as is. Now, aside from the CBA expiring, something else that may be happening by the year 2030 is a piss ton of international games. Per CNBC, the NFL's international slate could have up to 16 games per season by then, which will open the door for all 32 teams to play internationally every year. Roger Goodell reportedly wants this to be in place by the year 2030, and that's more than double the amount of international games being played this year, as there's only 7, with 13 teams being involved, since the Vikings are playing 2 games overseas in 2025. That's already an increase from the 5 international games that were played in 2023 and 2024, so they do seem like they're trying to stair-step it in that direction. We know how much the NFL loves making money, and they've been getting more and more aggressive at expanding the game outside of the United States, with the move they made yesterday to expand even more is voting to allow NFL players to play flag football in the 2028 Olympics. So yeah, it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if we see this go into place by 2030, but that's still an overwhelming amount of international games. And then there's a situation worth monitoring out in Washington, D.C. at the moment, and no, I'm not talking politics. After previously being a full participant, Commanders receiver Terry McLaurin was not at practice today, which is raising some eyebrows as he's heading into the final year of his contract and wants an extension. It would actually make sense if he's looking for an extension, and he actually held out a bit during OTAs in 2022 before he got his most recent contract. So that seems to be what's going on here, and he definitely deserves paid. He's coming off the best season of his career, catching 82 passes for nearly 1,100 yards and a career-high 13 touchdowns. He does turn 30 in September, but durability really hasn't been a problem for him in his career. He's only missed 3 games since he was drafted in 2019 and has played in all 17 in each of the last 4 seasons. Scary Terry is also a leader in the locker room, has been a team captain for several years, and ultimately brings a lot of value both on and off the field as a veteran in that room. Commanders GM Adam Peters said back before the draft that he would like to work out an extension with McLaurin before week 1, even saying, quote, "We want to make Terry a Commander for a long time." And even though McLaurin's target share may dip due to the newly acquired Deebo Samuel also in the room, I think it makes sense for both parties to get something done ASAP. Jaden Daniels is on his rookie deal after all, so do the big spending now, which they have been doing to be clear, and try to make a run at a Super Bowl ring while your starting QB is quote-unquote cheap. They certainly haven't been shy about stocking the fridge for Jaden Daniels, so I would think they do indeed get something done with him here sooner rather than later. But let me know your thoughts on that. I think Terry McLaurin is an absolute dog and deserves it. Anyway, that's all I have for today, and with that, I'll see y'all next time.